What's up, y'all? This is Donya coming at y'all once again, and today I have my very first project that we're going to be fixing up for a client. Here is half of the top. It's a round table. The other half is right here. It's kind of just broken up into a bunch of small pieces, but I don't think we're going to be using this because it's totally warped, as you guys can see maybe in the camera. We're going to replace these pieces with completely new boards, and I'm going to renew these ones and see how it comes out. Now, since it's been sitting outside forever, it has a lot of dirt on it, and I don't want to send that dirt through the planer, so I'm just going to brush it off with this brush here, and that'll take the dirt right off.
Once the dirt is removed from the boards, we can now send the pieces through the planer.
So here is how our table is looking. This is going to be the bottom of it. So next I have this Craftsman benchtop joiner here. We're going to go ahead and send all of these little pieces through the joiner to get them nice and square. Now, as you can see, here's what a before and after looks like. So we got all of these pieces planed down. Next is this half. Now, this is obviously too big to send through the planer, so we're going to start off sanding it with some 80 grit. This one's 200, whereas I just had 80 grit. I bet you the wind took my... What the heck? There it is. We're going to start off with some 80 grit sand. I can't say paper because it's not paper, but these sand things, sand nets, I'm not really sure what they're called. And we're going to work our way up to about 200, 220 more or less, something like that.
Once I complete the sand down, I take the pieces we just sent through the planer and I chop off the end grains using the miter saw to clean it up.
So here is how our table is looking. This is going to be the bottom of it once it's all together. We have the first half. We have the middle extension here, which is kind of just sitting together. And you'll notice the second half is missing because we have it over here. Pulled out some additional pieces here from my scrap pile. We're going to plane these down and we're going to create another second half.
So now I take that wood and clean it up with the planer as well. After doing the planing, we do our first glue up using clamps that I'm placing both horizontally and vertically.
Right, as y'all can see here, we got the glue up completed. We have it clamped from both the top, kind of sandwiching it together as the long clamps are holding it long ways together like that. So we're going to give this about 30-40 minutes to dry, and then we're going to cut it out.
This is just a clamping technique I like to use to keep the boards nice and even. Makes it easier for the glue up so nothing comes out bent and warped and out of place. Now that we have our clamping mechanism taken apart, I hammer these boards off just in case they're glued to the top. I'm going to put the half circle on top of our piece that we just made and trace it so that we can cut it out with the bandsaw. But keep in mind that the bandsaw is just a rough cut. We're going to go ahead and clamp it to the top of the other half of the table so we can do the final cut.
Alright, next I went ahead and pulled out my router here, and we have a flush trim bit mounted right on there, and we are going to copy this edge to the other half of the table that we just glued together.
Here you'll see me using one of the very many routers I have in my arsenal to copy one board onto the other. And next I use the radial arm saw to rip it to the correct length.
Alright, so here we have it all sanded up to about 220 grit, feeling super smooth. Next step, I'm going to use some wood filler to fill in all these little holes and cracks and crevices, whatever we got here. Now, you always want to cover it up quick because this stuff dries super quick in like 10 minutes.
And let me tell you, 10 minutes is no joke. This stuff really does dry fast. But it does take a while to fill in all the little holes because we are using reclaimed wood for this project.
Now we're going to sand them all down.
I typically sand the wood filler with about 120 to 220 grit. Once that is complete, we can move on to gluing up the middle extension for this table. I use a small board to help spread the glue. Then we clamp together our second glue up.
Now we proceed to take this one apart. And now we have our extension. Alright baby, it's finally starting to look like a table now. Now for the next step, we're gonna have to get this extension mechanism working so that the middle part is removable.
To attach all the pieces of the tabletops together, we craft our dado cuts with precise measurements. Be sure when performing a rip cut on the radial arm saw that you are always wearing eye protection.
Not too shabby for the first pass. Alright, we have this beautiful dado cut going on right here. I absolutely love it. So we're gonna go ahead and do this to the rest of them. Alright, so we have these pieces all dadoed out, as you can see here. And I cut up some long strips that we're gonna glue inside of the dados, or at least one dado. We're gonna have a couple in here, and we're gonna have these glued to the other half of the table.
I had just a little bit of Titebond 2 left, so I decided to pull that out and use the rest of it to glue my dados together. However, if you have Titebond 3, I always recommend using that.
After fighting with this thing for the past hour, I finally got it. Man, this glue up was really giving me a lot of trouble, but eventually we got it. So I'm gonna leave these clamps on for a good while because I don't want the glue to break on me.
Little did I know at this point in the project that I ducked up big time. Stay tuned in to find out what happened.
And I'll be back tomorrow, but for you guys it'll only be 1 second. Bam, son, look at that. We are here the very next day and the glue up is finally dry. But I must have been super tired last night because I glued one side on the wrong way. I should have glued this on this side and this on this side. But that is okay. We're going to carefully hammer it back off with the hammer and chisel over here and re-glue one side. We do have some tear out here, which I kind of expected, but on the bright side it is minimalized. I kind of thought we were gonna get a lot more tear out than what we did get, so that's good. All we got to do is send this through the joiner again, glue it back together, and we should be good to go. All right, that was quick and easy. You almost can't even tell there was any tear out at all. I did a quick sand down, filled in the holes with some wood filler, and for this part we're just gonna send this through the joiner a couple times and we're ready to glue it back down. We now have everything glued back together, and this is my favorite part of the video, watching the glue dry. Just kidding, all jokes aside, once this glue up is done we can move on to finishing. All right baby, I kind of went behind the scenes a little bit. I did some behind the scenes work, and I don't know if you guys can tell in the camera, but I turned it into a perfect circle. And next, you might notice there's a big old crack right here. There's another one somewhere, I gotta look for it, but I left that there intentionally for a good reason, for something I've been wanting to test out for a while. And if you've guessed it, that's right, we're using the Shaper Origin. What we're gonna do here is we're gonna make some bow ties. So I got the Shaper plate here. We're basically gonna start off by clamping the plate to our workpiece. We can move the Shaper Origin right on our workpiece. So if we look here at the top of the Shaper Origin on the screen, I already took the liberty of downloading some files for different types of bow ties. So we just got to pick one and use it. I think I'm going to start off here at the top. Let's go with, we'll go with the 3-inch. We're going to turn this and position it the way we want across the crack the best we can. So I actually rotated it 90 degrees so I could position it a little bit better, and we're going to put it about right there. And we're also going to go back, we're going to pick another one. We're going to go with the 2-inch. We're going to do the same thing, rotate that 90 degrees. I can hear a bunch of cops there in the distance, don't mind that. Anyways, we're going to put the 2-inch, I think we can put it there, and we'll cut out our inlays. As you guys can see, we have our first bow tie pocketed out. Real nice, beautiful, perfect. That's the chef's kiss right there. And just like that, within a matter of minutes, we have some really cool looking bow ties. It kind of looks like a stitch pattern almost. So for this part, I have this perfect spare piece of wood. It's the same exact width as the table we're working on. So I'm gonna cut it out of this. We're gonna cut down most of the ways and then finish off the cut with the bandsaw. After a few tries here, because I kept messing these things up, I finally got our bow ties here cut out. We just got to take them over to the bandsaw. This one came out really good, but I messed up because you want the grain to run this way, so I had to cut the second one out right here, and they came out great. We finally have all three of our bow ties cut out, so let's cross our fingers and hope they fit. Who am I kidding? Of course they're gonna fit, and that is a perfect tight fit. I don't want to put it down just yet because we got to put glue, but I think we are golden. Put a little bit of glue in our pocket, not too much. It slides right in like a glove. I'm gonna push it down with a clamp. Looks like it's in all the way. Very nice. I'm gonna get my chisel and take it down the best I can. This is not a fine woodworking chisel. This is a cheap Home Depot chisel, so I'm gonna be very careful because it's not super razor sharp, but I did do the best I can to sharpen it with some sandpaper. And I'm not gonna take this all the way down to the surface. I'm actually just gonna take the majority of it off with the chisel, and then we're gonna sand the rest of the way. All right, we got one done and two more. And look at that. God dang, son, that looks good. I really like it.
So at this point in the project, I'm going to be using a round over bit on the router to give it a nice aesthetic look.
So I have my little setup here all set up, which I'm going to write Martinez right across the middle. So let's go ahead and do it.
Now you can't really tell in the time lapse, but I did have quite a bit of trouble carving this name out in certain areas, but in the end it ended up turning out pretty well.
It's pretty much all done, and I think it looks awesome. Check that out. Now, just as a helpful tip for anybody else that's using the Shaper Origin, it's going to take a while to kind of pick all these little stickers out with your fingers. So I like to get the chisel, just take them off like that real quick. They come off much quicker than trying to peel off all the ends with your nails. So as the kind of final aesthetics we're going to add to this table, here on the bottom I cut some 2x4s up that we're going to put around the perimeter like so, and basically that's going to act as our apron, so it hides all of the stuff here on the bottom of the table. Very nice cut right there, and it'll look something like that.
Here's a pretty good time lapse just to show you guys how long that this part of the project took. I honestly underestimated it a little bit. It took me way longer than I anticipated. After I cut out all the blocks, I also cut out some handles to use for the tabletop when you want to pull them apart or put them back together. Then of course we sanded it down to smooth out those cuts.
And check that out. I also routered the edges so that when you grab it, you're not grabbing a sharp corner and it feels real comfortable in the hand. That's how it's going to be right there. That way the handles will make it a little bit easier to pull the table apart and back together. Now that we have all the pieces of the table put together, the next step is the finish. I'm going to be using this Behr premium oil-based polyurethane. I'm going to do a 50-50 mixture between Behr polyurethane and some mineral spirits, and we're going to be spraying it with this HTE spray gun I picked up from Harbor Freight.
Now, I've always found that spraying on clear is one of the most satisfying parts when it comes to woodworking, at least for me personally. I just find the spraying to be a little bit ASMR-ish. Once we finish up our mixture here, I go ahead and pour it into our spray gun container. Don't forget to wear your personal protection when spraying. I typically use a gas mask, but the gloves are optional when spraying. However, I do like to use them when I am cleaning the gun. Right now, I am spraying all of the pieces with their first coat, but when the final product is complete, I will have a total of 2 to 3 coats. We now begin our second coat. I let it dry for a solid 30 minutes before starting the second coat, and after the second coat I'll let it dry 24 hours before putting on the third coat.
And there she is, boys. This is the round configuration. There's the extension. We're probably gonna put one more coat of clear on it and call it done.
We finally complete the final coat on this table and it is donezo's. Also, just in case anybody was wondering, the customer had just brought me the tabletop. I did not do the base for this video, so that is going to complete this project for now. I hope you guys enjoyed that video. If you liked it, go ahead and comment, give me a thumbs up, definitely subscribe, and hit that notification bell.